All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Humble Hustle Project. Super excited. We are in-house, as you can tell. We got a different layout right now. We got the fellas down here in LA visiting. How we doing, fellas?
I'm doing well, man. I'm so happy to be in person with you guys.
Yo, this definitely, it's nice.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a little bit different than being on the computer. So just super excited, man. Super excited.
Yeah, so we've been a little quiet, you know. We've been a little quiet with our podcast, but that's intentionally for this reason of like we're trying to grow. And so one of the things we're talking about, Brett brought it up the other day, is like, yo, we kind of put that 25 out there, and like now we know where to build from. We're starting over. We're hitting the drawing board again, and we're trying to improve every way, every day, every episode. And so, yeah, man, it's good to have you guys down here because, man, it's an entire different like vibe in person.
For sure.
Definitely.
So,
I feel like the flow is going to be smoother. On top of that, if you guys can tell, we have new merch.
Yeah, check out the new merch. Got the hat.
Hey, as always, we're going to be dropping new stuff. So on our website, you can now pick up your Humble Hustle Project merch, hats, hoodies. You know, we got a nice little lineup there for you. We got our head of fashion over here.
Holy shit, bro.
The head of fashion.
Right here. Hey, we got head of fashion over here. If I can't hit this mic over here without knocking it down. And then we got distributor of units over here. So again, we're going to get y'all some gear. We're going to talk about some cool stuff. We're going to interview some cool people and hopefully have some stuff you guys can all take home with you. Life lessons, things we can build, but also having fun during the whole time. And I'm telling you guys, I can already feel the energy by being in person. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. So first thing, you know, today's topic is really going to be about how do we get started? How do we get started? And what is kind of, you know, some life shifts that we're experiencing? Because like a lot of times people want to do a lot of different things, get involved in different things. Where do you guys start? So things like, you know, if you want to start a new hobby, if you want to start a new job, switch career lanes, what would you guys put out there for people to kind of contemplate and work on?
That's a good question, man. It's also like kind of challenging to think about, right? Like to make pivots and changes in life is it can be super challenging. But for me in my mind, when I want to make a change or something, I just start thinking about like putting myself in those shoes of what I want to change and then all of the effects around it, right? I try to think like a year out, a couple years out beyond that, and then how would it affect me? Is this something I really want to do, or is it in the moment? Is it more of like, is it more of like that feeling of excitement, or do I genuinely want to partake in whatever I'm doing? You know, and then I look at the why behind it. Because for me, I'm like, if it's, I just want to go do this because it's going to look cool or sound cool, which I've done too many times before in my life, then I know that it won't last long. And I'm like, dude, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to waste my time.
There's a component of longevity so that if you do make that start, you need to know that it's going to be worth your time.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Because everyone started something and then they midway through, they're like, why the fuck am I doing this? You know what I mean? And I'm afraid of wasting time on stuff that either isn't going to be fruitful or just I don't care. I'm not passionate about. You know what I mean?
Okay. What about you, man?
Yeah, no, I think Devin brought up a good point. Like a lot of times, like it's just the in the moment excitement. Like it's short lived, right? You know, you want to make this change and you're super excited, and then a week later you're like on to the next thing. Yeah. So I think it is really important to like understand like what do you want to change. I think that's a big point. And then also like have a set goal or a vision, whether it's a year down the line or whatever it is, like have a clear defined, like this is where I want to be. This is what I want to accomplish. Because I feel like if you don't have that, like next week you're going to be on to the next thing. You know what I mean? It's just, then you're just going to keep like trying to start something, but you're never going to like ever finish that.
So something I'm always like, especially with our background in education, is that one of the big things that we tell students is like get exposure, put yourself out there. So I guess I would almost argue we might be in a different position in our lives. Like, yo, I want to go start this. I want to go start this because we have an idea of what it could look like or what we want it to be. So for example, like this podcast, we wanted to go start this. We took the shift. We got 25 episodes out there. We're moving with it, and we're trying to reassessing and evaluating, and we're thinking longevity wise. I'm thinking about like the young college student, high school kid that's coming up, and how they process. I have no idea what I want to do, but I want to do something and I want to start. Is it a matter of exposure? Is it a matter of like getting people in spaces where they're uncomfortable and they have no idea, but all they have to offer is time, kind of thing? And so if it's a matter of like, where do I start? Like, part of it's, for me at least, and depending on where you are in your life, you know, you might have kids, family, or you might be a young kid coming up. I think for me, I always want to drive home the level of exposure, because I remember hearing this one thing, where a quote that says like, your level of exposure will determine your level of success. So your level of exposure to various different individuals that put you on game, your level of exposure to different career fields, your level of exposure within your career field to become an expert or have an expertise in that. That for me has been like something, at least where I think about the things I consider about starting, is like, okay, what part am I in? Am I starting a new venture that I know I want to pursue? Or is it like, I just need to find something that is meaningful for me? So that's something I consider, you know, when it comes to that.
There was a point that you were speaking about that like made me go down a train of thought, and I'm trying to remember like back to what I was thinking with it, but fuck, dude, I just
no, I can hop in. Like,
I was like,
what you're saying is like, you know, exposure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's really important. 18, 19 years old, like, you're not gonna. I mean, it could happen, but like, you're not gonna just like go after something, but okay, that's what I want to do. Like, that's not everyone's situation. So exposing yourself to different career fields or different people, different mentors, different things like that, I think super important, because like, you're not maybe just going to find that one thing and then run with it, and that's going to be your path the whole time. Jake, we're kind of going through it right now where we're mid-20s. And we're kind of like still like discovering new things and being like, hey, I may not be happy.
Bro? Saying I'm not
We all
in my mid-20s?
mid-20s. We all mid-20s.
Nah, that's how you feel,
No.
bro? Look,
Hey,
dead
Dad,
out
no,
was
I'm
like,
talking
he's like,
about-
listen, bro, we in our mid-20s.
No, I'm
Anyway,
talking about, hey,
he-
I'm talking
yo,
like
Devin,
dead at Jake. Like, I'm not in my 20s
I
still,
omitted
bruh.
you because we're like kind of
The-
changing
the
career fields here.
disrespect
Bro.
right there.
Nah, dude.
Yo,
I'm saying because
son,
we're kind of changing
Jesus
career fields, so we're
Christ.
like doing new things. Like, I didn't omit you.
Like,
because you're
I ain't
not,
doing shit with
but,
my... Oh, my God.
But,
No,
but
go
you
ahead,
know
go
what I'm
ahead.
saying?
Yeah,
Like, we're like mid-20s, like
Yeah.
kind of figuring out a new lane, a new path to
Yeah.
go on.
Yeah.
And that's done through exposure, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, you just got to be aware of your surroundings. And like, if you're in a lane where you're not happy, you're the one who has to go out. Like, you know, stuff's not going to fall on your lap.
Big fucking
You know what I mean?
facts,
Like,
bro.
and stuff's not just going to come to you like one day, you know, you're going to find this new career path or something, and
Yeah.
boom, there it goes. You know, so I think exposure, I mean, your whole life, like, you should be trying new things, experiencing new things, and not get like complacent where you are. Because there's, I know we both found like there's more to the world than the area that we're in,
And I think
we noticed that.
Me and Brett talk about this all because we're from the same hometown. So we were like, we always talk about like, I think one of the best moves we ever did was leave our hometown.
Bro, one of the best things you can do is get out of your normal situation, because like when you take yourself out of that comfort zone, quote unquote, and people use it so often, like, oh, step outside your comfort zone. But for the college student who's watching this, listening in, like, that just means stepping outside of the things you would normally do.
Yeah.
So if that means, like, let's say you're in high school, or let's say you're in college, and you normally sit with your friends and you talk about X, Y, and Z at lunch, sit with people you would normally like talk to or have those conversations with that you're familiar with, and then go down those routes, have those conversations, and just connect with people, because you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like you guys are saying, exposure.
Yeah.
But stepping outside of your hometown, it's such a big thing, bro.
Yeah.
It opens your eyes to a whole different world.
It gives you a kind of level of responsibility that you wouldn't have otherwise. Like, you have to determine how you show up in each space prior to people already knowing who you are. You know what I'm saying? You have to not only determine that, but you also have to kind of like stand up on your own, be like, yo, this is the best me I'm putting out there, because you don't know who I am. You're going to make a determination whether I care or not, or not is going to be a different point. But like, now it's on me to be like, I need to put myself out there, because no one else is going to do it for me. And so that's something I think, like, when it's like, where do you start? That exposure, that getting out of that, like leaving what places of comfort or something of familiarity is crucial, man. It's crucial.
But even like
Yeah.
on that same token, like, your exposure is going to be limited to not only the people you surround yourself with, but all the information you're taking in, right? So what I mean by that is, like, if you're around people who just want to do the exact same thing all the time, or they're just focused on, you know, kind of like a I don't know, just like the same processes, and they're okay with that, that's fine. But you have to be okay with being someone who's gonna take the step outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's it takes a lot of courage, right? You can't like, in that, I mean, they're speaking about it now, but just leaving your hometown, it sounds like, oh, that's simple. Like it's, but then it goes beyond that. If you look at like other societies, right, in Europe, or even like, for instance, Sweden, really good example. A lot of people in Sweden at a very young age just start traveling, right? Obviously, a very different state than people in the U.S. or just in general, like finances can be set up different. But what I'm saying is because they start getting exposure to different places and different people, different walks of life, they approach life very differently. We were all in Santa Barbara. We all met plenty of people that were from different countries.
Yeah.
And they spoke many languages and they experienced a lot of different things in life. And those exposures help them find, hey, this is what I want to do. This is, and then from there you can find either thought leaders or even just people in that space that you want to connect with, that you want to understand, who you may admire or who may have like attributes that you look to and things that you could actually learn from. And then you can kind of like follow down that road. You know what I mean? But exposure is so big. And something else to take note of that's really important, don't get too bogged down with analyzing things. Analysis paralysis is a very real thing. You know, where people just kind of like analyze something so much to the point to where they don't do anything.
Yeah.
They don't move. They're just like, I'll get to it. You know what I mean? It's just like somebody who talks about, oh man, you know, I've always wanted to run a marathon. They look at all the things they could do to be a marathon runner, like the type of cadence, like the type of sleep they would need, like the type of diet they would need, type of running shoes. They get all the gear, and then they never do it. Right? Analysis paralysis.
Man, so you brought up that point of like exposure. Like not only does it expose you to a variety of things, you makes you figure out and determine how to navigate very different worlds. Like how like
facts.
And so I think a quick story I want to bring up is like, I want to use myself as an example because for those of you listening, we've been talking about like like take action, exposure, like, well, what does that look like? Okay, so what it looks like, y'all, is that for myself, I took an educational route. I went to community college. I thought I was going to go play football. We've heard this story before, but I went to community college, transferred, and then ultimately went to go get my master's in higher education. I can tell you for a fact that the reason why I decided to pursue all those things was the level of exposure I had. I had an English teacher that said, yo, you can do and you can keep up with everybody in this room. You just got to put in the work. And I was like, okay. But then you got to realize here's a other component to it. It was like, okay, now I started to get this exposure that somebody said I could pursue higher education. I could become an academic. I could climb the ladder of academia, whatever that may look like. Something that I'm coming to realize, and that ultimately led me to a shift in my life of like to start somewhere else, was that I got so ingrained into this one lane of education and what I wanted to create with it, that there's a ceiling to the level of exposure I got. Does that make sense? Like, so literally everyone in academia, education, I understood how everyone operated. I understood what the positions you could, like the exposure, the experiences, the programs you could be a part of. And so ultimately, recently, and this is a little life update as well, is that I started looking like, man, like I feel like I can do more. I feel like I can contribute more to the world of education or just putting people on game. Part of that was not only the Humble Hustle Project, but part of it was like, okay, now I want to find companies and careers that not only fulfill my need there, but also in the timeline at which I feel like that I could make those changes. And so I'm saying all this in terms of, I started looking into like, what does it look like to, you're in tech. I got other buddies in tech, and I was like, man, where can I match my exposure and my passion for education and blend it with, my experiences that I have. And so I started looking to get exposed to more people that are doing cool startups and ventures. And so ultimately, for those of you, I took up a new job. It's in ed tech, and the whole purpose of it is to put people on game and get them into new career fields. I'm talking about this as a level of exposure and where to start is like, it could be as simple as going down a Twitter thread rabbit hole on like a different career or industry. It could be as simple as diving in on a YouTube, like DIY how-to kind of experience where this guy's building like wood sculptures, and then all of a sudden you want to get into carpeting and like all stuff like that. And so I'm rambling a little bit, but my point here is that like it really is just a step and then a full dive into a rabbit hole of like industry information.
Yeah, I would even say it's even as easy as like understanding who you are. as like a person and understanding like your skill set and understanding like
what you bring to the table.
What you bring to the table. And, you know, we're going through the same thing where it's like, I know who I am as a person and a professional. And where I'm at right now, like that ability is not going to be maximized for 10, 15 years. So now I'm thinking like, okay, now I want to move into somewhere else. Like now I want to start like, because a lot of people I feel that once you start, you can't restart, and you can absolutely restart. Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like, okay, I've gotten here. Now I'm going to kind of restart from here. Yeah. We're doing that with this project. We've released 25 episodes. We had this conversation last night, and I said, I feel like we're restarting. Yeah. We learned from those 25 episodes, but now this is like the baseline. Now we're moving Q1, forward from here. Now we're exactly. So I feel like a lot of people get into this thing where it's like they don't think they can restart. Like they're so ingrained and they're so entrenched, and it's like, okay, now I just got to, you know, stick it out.
Learning when to pivot is a skill set too.
Right. Yeah, dude, it's like you feel like you can't restart, but you can. Exactly. Right? And you can learn, or you can use everything you've learned. Exactly. That's not like that's wasted knowledge now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you can go forward.
Bro, there are so many stories. You hear it all the time about these people who are semi-successful in one area of their life, and they're like, you know what, I want to make a pivot. Good example, one that everyone knows well, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right? Everyone knew he was in WWE. The guy was like wrestling on the side of the road. You know what I mean? Like he was. It's crazy to hear his success story, but the guy wanted to make the transition to film, right? It had never been done successfully, at least that I was aware of, before him. Mm-hmm. And then you saw him in these small little roles and building up, and he knew the thing that he was going to have to do was outwork everybody, because he wanted to have the level of success that Will Smith had, but further. Mm. And when he said that to the executives he worked with, they looked at him like he was fucking stupid. But he knew, he's like, dude, if I ground myself and I work harder than everyone around me, I'll build this shit out. Now his name is synonymous with his success, hard work.
He's the highest paid actor.
Bro, he's a fucking monster.
Yeah,
he like literally like it's dope and it's beautiful.
So you're bringing up a few points here where it's like, okay, we talked about how to get started, like kind of a first step. Yeah. We're talking about exposure, putting yourself in different spaces. Mm-hmm. Now it just sounds like you're talking about a little bit of combination of like, bite off more than you can chew and chew like fucking crazy. Yeah. Like it's really like a matter of like
becoming obsessed
with what that start is. And so I think there's like some funny social media videos that are dropping about like hyperfixation or something like that. Yeah. And so like you pursue something really hard and then you stop and like pursue something else because you don't want to give it the time. Well, like imagine if that one hesitation you had about stopping and pivoting to something else because you didn't want to give it the time. I think a lot of it, dude, is just showing up every week, every day, just keep showing up. And at the end of the day, I was like, keep showing up and the results will start to produce themselves and continually adding to your plate of responsibilities. I think for me, like, for example, I love education. I love this new job opportunity that I've been afforded. I'm not leaving education though. Mm-hmm. Like I'm staying working at least part-time or contract so I can help contribute to what's my passion of putting people on game in the best way I feel like I can. And so it sounds like, okay, we talked about, where do you start, level of exposure, and then just becoming kind of obsessive over that. Yeah. What are like some other examples you guys might think of like?
I was actually about to ask him. I was about to say like, what's your example of like personal experience that you've had with like exposure that helped like change the way you see life now?
Right. I mean, I feel like it's just talking to people. Like I got a mentor, who's in tech. I just wanted to learn more about it. My sister's in it. So just like talking to them and being like, because I didn't know. I don't know what it's about. Like I had no idea. Like I had no type of exposure, and just having those conversations. And I would say that it's not one conversation, right? Like you're not gonna have one conversation and it's gonna blow your fucking mind, right? Like it's like a consistent dialogue that you're having with these people to really fully understand if that's really what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I feel like if you only have one conversation and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I really want to go out and get this. I really want to go out and kill it. That's gonna be your 1 week, like that's gonna be your 1 week fizzle out. But if you have consistent conversations and you fully understand like maybe where you want to go, things you want to do, and then at that point you're like, like this is really it. Because like I feel like you should sleep on things. And what I mean by that is like, over a week, like you sleep on it. It shouldn't just be like, boom, this is the life choice I'm going to make. This is the pivot I'm going to make. And then boom. No, you should really sleep on it, then have another conversation, sleep on it, have another, to really fully understand like, this is what I want to do. Because if you don't, you're next week you're gonna have another conversation that's gonna blow your fucking mind.
And on that note of like sleeping on it, own once you've made that decision.
Oh yeah,
because
1,000%.
something I experience all the time is like I'll tell somebody about something I'm going to do or want to do, and it's the first time they're hearing it. It's not the first time I process it through my mind, like 10, 20, 30 nights before that of like, do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? Okay, I'm going to tell somebody about it. And if they have something like negative to say about it or like some kind of apprehension, something familiar, like a parent might say, yo, are you sure that's the right move? And I'm just like, yeah.
I'm prepared for this moment.
Absolutely. Like there's no hesitation in what I'm telling you
I'm
right
so
now.
happy you said that in the affirmative rather than the alternative. Because if you did, like, some people, like, they just immediately, if somebody else doesn't like their idea, they're like, oh, okay. And it's almost like they're looking for that acknowledgement.
Yeah,
like, hey, like, I have the right.
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
It's like, no, you have to be so grounded in what you want. You just like, nah, actually, I don't really care. I'm just letting you know I want a soundboard. But I'm not, like, looking for you to acknowledge whether or not this is going to be good for me because you follow your heart, your gut. You're like, oh, bro, this is going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Same people asking why you doing it will ask you how you did it.
Exactly.
That's why I look at it. Yeah.
Say it again. One more time. Say it again.
Same people asking why you doing it will ask you how you did it.
Yeah. I very much
They'll be
agree
like,
with that.
whoa, like how, like wait, can I learn something from you? And it's like, whoa, like you were asking, like, hold on,
Yeah.
you were doubting it.
Earlier, you guys made a point of like sleeping on it. I would say that like it makes sense to sleep on it, but there are other times, there are other moments in life where sometimes shit calls for you to just throw yourself in the deep end and say fuck it. And I'll give you a good example. When I was in college, I was working like a ton of different jobs, and then I'd known someone who was, I didn't know what he was doing at the time. I just know that, like, I remember seeing on his Instagram feed, like, he was buying like 10 pair of shoes at one time, got a new car, like moved into a better apartment. I was like, what is this motherfucker doing? I thought he was selling drugs. I was like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? And I hit him up. I was like, we were having a conversation. I was like, bro, something in your life happened? Something changed?
Yeah.
He's like, bro, if I tell you, you would not believe me. I'm like, bro, what do you do? He was like, bro, I do door-to-door sales. I'm like, you're fucking shitting me. Like, I was like, I thought he was full of shit, bro. Door-to-door sales, bro.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you're really full of it. Long story short, he's like, actually, you want to come out and do it with us? And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. I'll fly you out to Texas. We'll just do it. He was like, actually, how about this? I'm driving down. I can pick you up in like the next week, and then we can just drive down together. My lease wasn't up for another month. I immediately put all my shit in storage, like, we're going. And said, fuck it.
How old are you when this happened?
I think I was 21, maybe 22. Like, I was pretty young, or maybe I was 20. But I remember just making the pivot.
Was that scary? Like, I mean, was that
it
like,
was,
were you?
but then I was like,
Right.
my shit will be in storage. It'll be fine. Like, why not? Like, I don't.
Why not? I
you
got
know, I'm
nothing
gonna
to
be.
lose.
On top of that, he was just like, all right, dude, so this is how much you make per sale, maybe like $500 for every door you can close. I'm like, I can talk people into buying, like, you know, and I'm like, I don't want to do anything like wrong. I don't want to convince somebody of buying something that they don't need. But then I was like, you know, I feel it's a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in a different place. I'll be surrounded by completely different people, but it'd be a different experience. I was doing that for 3 years, and that changed my life. And the only reason, I feel like one of the only reasons why I got into tech, or one of the only reasons why I was able to put my foot in the door of tech, was because when they realized, oh, you have door-to-door experience. And you're knocking on doors for 9 to 11 hours a day for 6 days a week.
Yeah.
In Houston heat, in
different kind of
Dallas
hustle,
heat,
man.
in Florida heat, you know what I mean? In Baltimore heat, it changes the way you think about things, and you're pushing yourself to just knock on random people's doors like, hey, how's it going? You know, how's your day going? You know, and just talking about random shit, and then making a transition from talking to them on their front doorstep to 30 to 40 minutes later, them signing a 5-year agreement, and like you locking in a deal, then walking out of the house knowing you made $500 to $1,000.
Yeah.
And then going to like their friend across the street and focusing on doing the same thing. And because of that, it almost like it grounds you because that experience is very different, right? It pulls you out of your comfort zone. You're like, why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then it exposes you to all these other things. And I can honestly tell you that I feel like my entire life changed because of that very thing. The people that I met, just in general.
So I wanted to ask you a question off of that. So we're talking about where do you start, and like you identified how you made this pivot, and then how you ultimately got this exposure in this different work field. At what time did you decide and know for yourself that you're not going to do that anymore? Because you don't do it to this day. Like I know
No,
that's
definitely
not.
not.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, so there's a pivot where you're like, yo, I'm gonna start something else or start something new. So was it something explicit, or was it just like a matter of like, rolling into different things and like
was-
trying to get some more exposure in that way.
It was kind of like a subtle feeling that was like inside that I thought about because I was like, dude, I know that it's not the work that I have a problem with. It's just the fact that I know I can work smarter. I know I can make more money. And I know that there's a better way of doing it. I know that I should be able to pivot. If I can do this doing door to door, I should be able to do this doing email or something else, right? And then I just started thinking about it. And in my mind, I was like, I can be successful beyond this. I know that if I'm successful with this already, then why couldn't I make the pivot to something else? And in my mind, in the back of my mind, the thing that was gnawing at me was like, dude, you can do more. Like, this is okay, but you're working really hard, and there are people out there who are working smarter than you. And I'm like, all right, well, how do I work smarter? And so I had like little odd jobs, and while I was working in the Bay Area and working smarter, I didn't realize, but that meant tech, right? Because now I feel like I was essentially doing the exact same thing when I stepped into tech, except now it's through email. And it was weird because the transition, I was like, dude, this isn't hard work. I was like knocking on doors for 11 hours straight, where I was carrying Chewy bars in my pocket for lunch or PB&J, one sandwich and a water bottle in 100-degree heat. That's hard. You know what I mean? Or going an entire week and a half or 2 weeks and getting no sales, but knocking on doors every day, nonstop. Yeah. And you know what I mean? Just chipping away every single day. That's challenging. But sending out like 100 emails in a day or making 100 calls, I'm like, bro, sign me up. This is cake. You know what I mean?
I look at that similar to how like at least like when I used to do like labor work and like like, you know, long labor hours where now it was just a matter of like, now I'm just talking to students on like what they want to be, you know what I mean? It's like it could be a lot worse. I could be coming home tired, could be getting up wildly early just to get right to it. So I gotta give props to dudes that are operating out there like that and more blue collar work like that. But I mean, they're getting their bread, you know?
No, really though, they are. So I think something that's really important for you know, let's say the young cat who's like in high school, right? Or let's say freshman in college, just like who maybe just trying to figure out what they want to do next, bro. One of the best ways you're gonna find out is by trying your hand at a lot of things, right? That means working at odd places you wouldn't want to work at, a pizzeria, right? You never know. That may be your passion, you just don't know. Or even like, I don't know, like a barbecue spot, like doing the most random things. I'm saying those because those are the things I did. I worked at a pizzeria, a barbecue spot, Home Depot, like I was a server at Chili's, you know what I'm saying? Worked at Costco. I'm like, you know what I mean? Door-to-door sales.
You are definitely like a jack of all trades when we talk about like work history. I think my first job was like a lifeguard.
Really?
Yeah.
I was a camp counselor.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was
Nice.
younger,
I
I used
love
to
that.
mow lawns.
Yes. Oh,
Or in
bro.
the summer, my
Washing
dad
cars,
got it set up
mowing
to where I
lawns.
was like mowing for $5 in the blazing heat. Yeah, like
Oh,
the
bro.
$5 was nothing. I was like 7 or 8 years old mowing 3 lawns, like just sweating. But like that taught me more than like
I love that, man.
yeah,
I
man. It
fucking
taught me
love
more
that.
than like anything would have ever taught me because like I was doing it for no money, sweating, hot.
Yeah.
Like I had just done football
Child
practice.
labor.
Like yeah.
Well, no, that's the thing, man. Is it also gives you like a sense of like negotiation of like life skills and work. So, for example, like my first job was being a lifeguard. Honestly, the only reason I did it is because my brother was a lifeguard back in the day. My big ass over on that lifeguard stand, like, oh, he gonna save me?
Yeah,
like
that
come on,
Hey,
like
that
so.
guy ain't saving nothing.
Yo, and it's even worse. To be a lifeguard, you gotta get CPR certified. And you gotta be able to show that you can swim. So I'm out there swimming. Yo, I'm like 14 years old doing this training. My mom rolls up to like, you know, come pick me up and like, you know, okay, and see how he's doing. She somehow gets into a conversation with the instructor, and he's like, she's literally out there like talking me down. Like she's literally up at the instructor's like, yeah, you know, he's not the best swimmer, but he can. I'm trying to be a lifeguard and get a job at this pool, Mom. Like, what are we doing here, yo? So
Was she like trying to motivate you? Like,
no, it was like she basically was like, yo, he's not the best, but I think he'll be able to do it. And I'm just like, I can swim. I could do all to say the people who are listening. I could do everything they were requesting of me. And the only reason I wanted to be a lifeguard was because they paid well for like high school kids. And so that was an experience for me where I was like, okay, not only were we managing, you know, this job as a lifeguard, but we also had football where our coach was like, why are you missing practice? Why are you missing 3 days? Like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm working. And he's like, that's not an excuse. I'm like, oh, come on,
Okay.
bro, come on.
What?
Like, so
Where's that coach right now?
all to say, me and him would always get ripped from coach whenever we would miss practice because we're working. But that's also a skill, I think, or an experience where, like, if you have multiple jobs, if you have multiple passions, if you have things you have to negotiate in life, it helps you identify and prioritize what is more important to you. And ultimately, if you decide you know where you want to start into something, then you know that you're going to understand and figure out how much time you're going to have to allot for it. So, for example, when we talk about this podcast, we even discuss, and we're candid with y'all, is like, okay, how long are these episodes going to be? Do we want to do short form? Like, we want to do an hour episode here, 20, 30-minute episode here. We'll do interviews over here. And then we're also like, and then I'm like, back in my mind, I'm like, okay, man, well, I'm working 60 hours a week now, like just for work outside of this.
Right.
You all got jobs. You all got other hustles. Right. You all got other moves. So it's like, okay, I like all these episodes, but we need to be real with ourselves and like how much time we can commit to this and grow this. So we're committed to it regardless. But like we said, this is a humble hustle project. This ain't the only thing that we're doing. Right. So if we're out there like trying to start new projects, start new things, understanding how to prioritize everything that you get yourself involved in, and what means the most to you, you know? So like, is it going to be that where that part-time gig I got, I might need to drop it because I want to give this more weight. You know what I'm saying? Is it that full-time where I'm going to have to negotiate like, hey, I'm going to need this out of this experience so I can give more time to this. You know what I'm saying? So again, that negotiation of like, when you decide to start, understanding what you can commit and how much time it may ultimately take to
maximizing your time.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the big things that we talked about, you know, yesterday is like, okay, if we give, let's say 2 hours to recording, we can't mess around.
Yeah.
Like we can't like sit there for half an hour just goofing off. Like we have 2 hours that we have to, you know, to record. Like no wasted movement, I feel like is a big thing, especially when you're starting. Like, look, you know, you can't just be wasting time because time is valuable. Time is money. You know, and like I said, we all have our own other things going on. So if you're not maximizing your time and you're just goofing off, like Devin, you said it earlier, you're just wasting time. I don't have time to waste. I really don't. So
and understanding your position to do so.
Yeah.
We're all young dudes. We don't got kids. We don't got, I'd say,
we're mid-20s.
Mid-20s. Dude, I'm forgetting how old I am. Okay, we got it. We get it. We get it. But, all right, man. But we're all trying to, you know, I'd say we're in a both a positive or in a unique position for ourselves where we can allot this time. So for those of our homies and friends and people that are listening, you may got kids. You got a whole nother life to take care of. You know what I'm saying? You got a whole nother world to engage with. You got a wife, you got kids, you got a full-time job. Your concerns are going to be a lot different than ours. So when you talk about prioritizing your time, man, that's a whole nother calendar. That's a whole different agenda for your day and how that's going to look. Waking up people, getting them to school, making sure everybody's good for the day. So I think when we talk about getting started and committing yourself and prioritizing your time, understanding that looks differently for everybody.
Yep, it does. It really does.
So.
Definitely does.
And that's okay too. You know what I mean? Like that's actually part of people's journey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like some people have to go through certain things for growth, and there's so many positives about bringing a complete different aspect to the table, or coming from like a kind of a world where your priorities are very different from everyone else's. Like everyone has that success story. It just depends on like what route you're going to take to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll say this is that, I think with this conversation, and I think, maybe we can start wrapping up on this one, is just like, it's a continual process, but if something inspires y'all, if something intrigues y'all, if something is interesting you to the point where you want to take any kind of action, don't let, like he said, paralysis, what is it?
Analysis paralysis.
That part, you know what I'm saying? Don't let analysis cause paralysis in your movement and action to get off your ass, off the couch. Sounding like an ITT Tech commercial. You're sitting on the couch, so you know what I'm saying? Like, make sure that you guys make a move and just take a step. You want exposure, get introduced to different people. We talk about all the time mentors, how important mentors are. I don't have one. If if you think you're going to learn everything you need to know about an industry or something that you want to pursue or a hobby or just a passion, one mentor is not enough.
It's really
Yep.
not.
It's not enough.
We're all multidimensional people.
Yeah.
And the more you learn about yourself, the more you realize how many things you're into, what you like. And it's never just going to be one or two things. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
And the more perspectives you have, I feel like is very impactful. Like, because you view the world a certain way. If you have one mentor, you're only going to get two perspectives. If you have 3-4 mentors, now you're going to have a wide range of, and you can take little pieces from each one. Like, you don't need to only have one.
That part right there for me is crucial, because the way I look at it is like there's so many blueprints in this life that there's so many that you can pull from, and you ultimately can like amalgamate and collect together to create your own.
Exactly. Your own. Remember, he said your own. Because remember, no matter how many mentors you have, no matter how many people that you connect with, you identify with, they're not going to have your story. So the people who out there who were listening, who are just like, damn, it's kind of different for me because X, Y, and Z, or I also have to X, Y, and Z to take care of. That's a part of your story, and that's what makes it so beautiful. Is that somebody out there is going to be able to connect with you based on your story, right? Not your mentors. They're going to give you perspective. They're going to help get you exposure. But your story is going to be very unique and beautiful because it's something that like you followed.
Yeah, man. And also, last point, you make it, you do well, you give back. You bring up the people behind you. This is the Humble Hustle Project for a reason. We're going to be hustling, but you bring people up with you. That's the whole point. You don't take what you learn and keep it to yourself.
Don't be Smeagol.
Don't be Smeagol. It ain't your precious. Okay? So, again, put people on game, contribute. That's another one from us. Humble Hustle Project.
Deuces.
Welcome back. Deuces.